All right, let's go to Friday night, ACC matchup, Boston College and Syracuse. We've got Syracuse 2.5, 3-point home favorites, 51 the total. I mean, Syracuse is a freight train careening out of control, and I want no part of that. This is now multiple years we've seen Dino Babers and his team just completely crumble in the second half, just fall apart. And they're showing signs of that again. And look, I said last week going into that Virginia Tech game, I did like Virginia Tech. They got the job done easily, destroying Syracuse last week on that Thursday night game. But I did say the only thing that you could really give Syracuse a break on is the fact that the 3 losses after that undefeated start were Clemson, North Carolina, and Florida State, all 3 really good teams. Virginia Tech not quite on that level. But the reason why I still like Virginia Tech is because Syracuse, not only when they collapsed last season 2 years ago, they started losing to mediocre teams as well and bad teams. And that's what we're starting to see now from Syracuse. Like Schrader in the offense has fallen completely off the map. They're struggling now to move the ball. They're struggling to put points on the board. And the defense has just been a sieve all of a sudden for Syracuse the last couple of weeks. They have just been terrible on the defensive side of the football. I'll be honest, I kind of lean Boston College here. Like, you cannot get me to the betting window to lay points with Syracuse right now. It's just not going to happen, especially when we know this team previously has had a track record of just completely imploding second half of the season. And we're seeing that right now once again with Syracuse. And say what you will about Boston College, it's a work in progress still for the offense. But the last couple of weeks, I was impressed with Thomas Castellanos, dual threat quarterback. They put up 38 in a win against Georgia Tech, beat Army, beat Virginia, beat UConn. They didn't cover in that game, and I don't like Boston College as big favorite still. I did like UConn actually getting more than 2 touchdowns against BC last week. But, the offense is coming along. Defense still isn't great, but you are still seeing that defense improve by the week. And to keep in mind, too, with Boston
pass defense has been good.
Yeah, no doubt. Their defense is getting better, and they're playing an offense that's falling apart right now. Like, all of a sudden, this offense that's lighting it up early in the season, they can't do anything right now. Like, they're having trouble just getting any sort of semblance, any sort of traction. I mean, this is an offense for Syracuse that's now scored in the last 3 weeks. Last 4 weeks, going back to the Clemson home game when this little swoon started for Syracuse. They have scored 34 points in the last 4 games combined. Wow. So they are averaging less than 10 points per game during this 4-game losing streak. So for me, it's Boston College, or you don't bet the game. What do you think here, Conor?
Yeah, Syracuse is just the only way you can look at it is they're coming back home here, and you think maybe that offense can get going because it has been nowhere to be found. You mentioned the last 3 or 4 weeks. I wanted to hit on the total because if the offense can get going, I wanted this total lower. Obviously, Boston College finally had an under with UConn, but before that, they had ripped off like 9 straight overs, especially when the number had been in the 40s. And that's what I was hoping for in this game. So, I mean, if it does go down and Syracuse's offense can get going, I think this game could go over, but I think the total right now is too high. This is the best spot for Syracuse to play. They're probably their best game in 4 or 5 weeks, but I can't do it. I can't take it. I go with Boston College or nothing as well. I just can't do it.
We are getting a discount now. Odds makers have reacted to this losing streak for Syracuse because you put this game before the Clemson game, which is when this losing streak started for Syracuse. If you would have put BC at Syracuse before the Clemson game, Syracuse is not laying 3. They're laying like 7 at least.
Yeah. But 2 teams going in opposite directions. One that started out well, one that we were talking about how bad Boston College was earlier in the year, but started to play better football, and one just, falling. So
the thing is, we know that this team has had a collapse before, and they never got it back on the rails. So why would I bet it to get back on the rails when they haven't seen that? When they didn't do it before? I'm not convinced they'll do it again.